He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, yes, we know he's crazy. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. We know he's out of control. We know he's losing it. We know his days are numbered and we will come together.
He's called me a racist.
We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale.
It's important that attorneys general representing our respective states stand up and enforce the rule of law. The president of these United States is not above the law.
No matter how rich, powerful, or politically connected you are, everyone must play by the same rules.
Please sue him for us.
Oh, we're gonna definitely sue him. We're gonna be a real pain in the
I'm going to use the law both as a sword and as a shield and challenge Donald Trump. And each and every time he issues an illegal executive order, I am going to stand up to him because he represents to me sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity.
Over 1 month later.
The Angle has obtained shocking allegations leveled by the Trump administration against New York Attorney General Letitia James. The Federal Housing Finance Agency has sent a criminal referral to the DOJ, accusing James of mortgage fraud.
What happens when a justice warrior breaks her own laws? Letitia James, Trump, and the real problem with power. What I'm saying might be interesting, right? Let's get into it, family. Let's have a conversation. As always, I wanted to preface the conversation with the video you seen or the clip that you seen in the beginning before I got on here. And let's get one thing straight. This is bigger than Trump. This is bigger than Letitia James. And this is about hypocrisy, double standards, and how power is being used or misused in broad daylight. So Letitia James, New York's Attorney General, ran her political career like a personal mission against Donald Trump. And she wasn't quiet about it. She said it on camera. She said it in debates. Her whole pitch to the voters was, I'm going after Trump. She turned Trump accountability into a campaign brand. But now the woman who claimed to be the protector of the law is under fire for breaking the exact same rules she used to try to take him down. Or she used, I should say, to try to take him down, but unsuccessfully failed. And we're going to break this down slowly from a child life perspective with common sense. And I'm going to break it down, you know what I'm saying, and use examples that an everyday average American Joe can relate to, because that's what's missing in most of these debates, the real life, right? Because as you know, Letitia James, she's in her delusions and fantasies, which, however, can basically be a bunch of juggernaut that can actually take you away from what's really going on in these streets. So the accusation of mortgage fraud, she's accused of lying on mortgage applications. But however, I want you guys to really get the sentiment of how hard she was running her campaign on Trump's accountability, on how she basically wanted to seize Trump assets. And I figured this would be an amazing clip for you guys to get the overall synopsis of her tone and how aggressive she was going after Trump. Check it out.
If he does not have funds to pay off the judgment, then we will seek, judgment enforcement mechanisms in court, and we will ask the judge to seize his assets. We are prepared to make sure that the judgment is paid to New Yorkers. And yes, I look at 40 Wall Street each and every day.
That's wild. But she's accused of lying on mortgage applications, including claiming a home in Virginia was her primary residence, while legally required to live in New York to serve as Attorney General, which she did, which she's in position to be an Attorney General in New York, which is her job. She listing a 5-bedroom property as having 4 bedrooms, which could mean qualifying for better loan terms, allegedly listing her father as her husband on documents to get benefits that come with filing jointly. Now pause. let's get out of politics and think like regular everyday American people that we are. And I'll give you a real life scenario, right? The mortgage hustle. If you ever brought a home, you know how tight those loan applications are. One wrong number is flagged. One small inconsistency, you're denied. Say you're applying for a mortgage and you claim that your cousin is your spouse just to get better loan terms. You're getting charged with fraud. End of story. You're not getting a news segment, you're getting a court date. And definitely no press conference about how you're fighting for justice, right? So here's the common sense question. If a regular person would be charged for this, why shouldn't a state official be held to the same standard? And I give you another real life scenario. The primary residence games that she playing. People try to play this game with taxes and mortgages all the time. Claiming a property as your primary residence, even when it's not, can get you better interest rates, tax benefits, and financing deals. But if you get caught, IRS don't care. The banks don't care. You're liable for it. Even worse, if you're a public official, it becomes a legal disqualifier. So how does the top law enforcement officer in New York claim a Virginia home is her primary residence while holding a New York State position that legally requires her to live there? That's just not a technicality. That's a basic violation of the job. Meanwhile, she goes after Trump for, and I already showed you what she went after him for. Basically, she sued Trump for business fraud, accusing him of overvaluing his assets to secure loans. But here's the thing. The banks do their own appraisals. The banks approve the loans anyway. The banks made money. Trump made money. Nobody complained. No one sued. No one was defrauded. It was a deal between two sophisticated entities. In fact, it's actually what real estate investors do on an everyday single basis. They show the best possible version of their assets to get better financing. Ask any real estate agent or investor. They'll tell you it's called negotiation. Duh. So it's like selling your car and listing it as excellent condition. The buyer, which is the bank, does a test drive or appraisal and decides if it's worth it. No one's being tricked. Everyone's just trying to get a better deal. So where was the crime in Trump's whole process of just being a smart, righteous businessman that's doing the right thing? Because at the end of the day, no matter how much he try to gloss up his books to look right to present to the banks that he should be a trusted investor where they can trust him to lend money to him, they're going to do their own investigation and do their own thing, right? To protect their behind, right? Because that's like you giving money to a friend. You want to make sure they pay it back. So the way you do that is, okay, well, look at the history of how you helped this friend and loaned them money. Did they ever pay it back? So it's the same thing of why we have credit in the first place. How responsible are you with money when you borrow it? Can you pay it back effectively, efficiently, and on time? And how fast can you pay it off? That's how banks look at things, from cars and everything else. So the double standard is the crime when it comes to Letitia James. But however, I want you guys to see this next clip in regards to what she accused for and letting the news network expand on it, and then I'll break it down even further.
May be a pain in her, you know what. The Angle has obtained shocking allegations leveled by the Trump administration against New York Attorney General Letitia James. The Federal Housing Finance Agency has sent a criminal referral to the DOJ accusing James of mortgage fraud. In a letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi, Director Bill Pulte says James appears to have falsified records in order to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms. He cited a property in Virginia that she's allegedly claimed as her principal residence and a property in New York that she claimed as a 4-unit structure instead of the required, instead of a 5, which Pulte says means she was able to get a different type and more favorable loan. Joining me now is Jonathan Turley, Fox News contributor and law professor at GW University. Jonathan, mortgage fraud is rampant in the United States. There's all sorts of fraud that's rampant. There's disability fraud that they've vowed to crack down on in the Trump administration. But this is another thing that they have vowed to crack down on because it costs real money. Your reaction to these allegations?
Well, obviously, the irony is perfectly crushing. This is a person who prosecuted Trump for everything short of ripping a label off a mattress. And among the charges that were brought in New York in not just the civil but the criminal case was making false or misleading statements to financial institutions. And one of these sections, Section 1014, of the federal code is prosecuted. It took me about 60 seconds of a search to find cases that the Department of Justice brought against people who falsely claimed that property was their principal residence in order to get loans. So this is well-tread areas for the Justice Department. As for James, if we apply the Letitia James standard that she created, there'd be little question here. This seems pretty straightforward. What the administration is saying is this was not her principal residence. In fact, as a New York elected official, she had to say that her principal residence was in New York. This was an out-of-state residence. But also, they claim that in some of these forms, she actually states that her father is her husband in order to file as a married couple. So there's a lot of those questions. And as you know, the Supreme Court just stated earlier in March in a case called Thompson that they want to see knowing false statements under sections like 1014, not just misleading statements. These are misleading statements. Either it's your principal residence or it's not.
Or it's not.
Either you're married to your father or he's your father. So they can this can satisfy the Thompson standard.
Yeah, well, Jonathan, we reached out to the DOJ, and they have no comment on this referral. We also reached out to Attorney General James, who did not respond to us either. So, again, everyone wants the best interest rate you can get. I understand that. But, you know, she's a lawyer. She knows that when you sign a mortgage application, that mortgage application, if you're borrowing money, if you're not borrowing money, nobody cares whether it's your principal residence, except, you know, where you file your taxes. But she decided to state that that was her principal residence, knowing it was not her principal residence. I didn't even know she had property. I mean, I guess she had property in Virginia and she has rental or investment property in New York. That's fine. But in the New York matter, to get the favorable rate, the building could only have 4 units. But for, it looks like the entirety of this building, it had 5 units, meaning it was in violation of the actual loan agreement. And again, this is not a novel application of the law, Jonathan. As you stated during the persecution of Donald Trump, she was using all these novel applications of law to go after him. This isn't novel. This is a black and white issue. You either did or you didn't.
I agree.
Right, and this has been prosecuted in the past. Now, we have not heard her side of this, but these documents themselves are quite damning. It's hard to see how the residences listed were her principal residence. The business about her father is just bizarre. Now, I'll note that one of the things that Letitia James stressed in her case against Trump is that Trump had to review documents that were filed in his name. And so she dismissed the argument that this was something that Trump's people put together. She said he's ultimately responsible. So they allege that she gave a power of attorney in a couple of these instances, but according to her own standard, that's not enough.
Well, Professor, the referral cites the case against the former Baltimore.
Well, family, the double standard is the crime. And it gets dirty because, like I said, Letitia James didn't go after Trump because she uncovered some massive criminal conspiracy. She went after him because she promised to on a campaign that she ran off of, family. So before any investigation even started, that's not law, that's vengeance. And now that the tables are turning, she's crying silence. But the irony here is she actually did what she accused Trump of doing, and not allegedly inflating a brand value, not a subjective real estate appraisal. We're talking about concrete, document level fraud, provable on paper. And let's keep it real. No one is above the law, right? Letitia James built her brand on the idea that no one is above the law. But now we're supposed to believe she made a few innocent mistakes, that she didn't mean to fudge those documents. That's not how she treated Trump. That's not how the system treats you or me. And if you walk into the bank and lie on a loan application, you're getting charged. And if you lie about where you live to get better terms, you're getting charged. If you claim your dad is your husband to get better financing, you're getting investigated. Full stop. So let's have a conversation. Here's what we should all be asking, no matter what side you're on of this. Should public officials be able to weaponize their power for personal political crusades? And if someone builds their platform on law and order, shouldn't they actually follow the law? Don't you think? And why is selective justice being treated like smart politics instead of abuse of power? It's mind blowing to me, because if you think about it, selective justice being treated like smart politics, but then you abuse power and don't think you need to get held accountable for that. And what happens when a system is used to silence enemies instead of serve citizens? So, because this isn't about Trump, it's not about Letitia James either. I'm just here to have a conversation, even though Letitia James is fully wrong and she should be held accountable for her actions. I totally agree with that. And it's about how politics is replacing the rule of law. And this is what the conversation is about, and I'm trying to have with you guys. And someone that's supposed to be we the people trust as a official, especially in the law space, should be operating in the confines of the law, and she needs to make sure the speck is out her own eye before she go try to hold someone else accountable. But I ask you guys, and how people in power will scream accountability right up until it applies to them. So look, man, final word. It's not revenge, it's balance. People would say this is political revenge, that Trump and his supporters are trying to get even. But let's be clear, this isn't revenge. It's the boomerang of accountability. And you can build a system off of weaponized legal attacks and then act shocked when the system turns back around and you play in the victim Olympics. Look, if the rule matters, they need to matter for everyone. Otherwise, we don't have justice. We have just politics with subpoenas, right? But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And if you got some value from this video, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. Let the love supersede the hate. Spread that peace, love, and positivity. Catch you in the next one, family.